The broken daughter in the richest part of the galaxy. There was a shining city built with glass towers, golden bridges, and streets that never slept. In this city lived a woman who was feared and respected by all. She was a millionaire alien, mother, owner of mines, ships, and treasures that could buy entire planets. People bowed when she passed. They whispered her name in markets and temples, even in the Senate halls. She had everything: power, gold, influence, and servants at her command. Yet in her grand palace, among all the glowing jewels and high walls, there was a single room that always stayed dark. A room she visited every night with tears hidden in her eyes. Inside that room was her daughter. The daughter was young, bright, and beautiful, with eyes like two shining stars. But her legs did not move. Since birth, she had been paralyzed. No doctor, no machine, no healer in the galaxy had been able to fix her. The mother spent fortunes, called the best minds from 10 different worlds, but each time the answer was the same: she will never walk. Every time the mother heard those words, she felt her chest break again. All her gold was useless. All her power was meaningless. For what was the value of treasure if her child could not even stand? Years passed like this. The daughter grew, but her world was limited to the chair she sat on. Other children ran in the palace gardens. She only watched from her window. Sometimes she smiled. Sometimes she hid her tears. The mother tried to hide her pain from the galaxy. In the markets, she laughed like a queen. At the council, she spoke like a warrior. But at night, when her daughter slept, she held the little shoes she once bought in hope. Shoes that were never worn. Then one night something strange happened. At a dinner with other rich families, the mother overheard whispers. 2 traders spoke in hushed voices about a miracle. Not a machine, not alien medicine, but a human. Humans were not rich in this galaxy. They were not kings, not great scientists. Many called them weak, small, and simple. Yet the traders whispered of one human who did the impossible. He did not ask for money, they said. He asked for something else, something more dangerous. The mother listened in silence, though her heart burned with questions. Could this be real? Or was it another lie, another cruel trick to steal her gold? Later that night, when she returned to her palace, she could not sleep. She looked at her daughter, who had fallen asleep by the window. A single thought haunted her. If there is even a 1% chance, I must try. The next day, she sent spies. They searched across space through villages and towns until finally they returned with news. The human was real. He was not rich, not powerful, but people said strange things about him. Wounds healed under his care. Broken bones fixed faster. Even old creatures walked again. The mother's heart raced. For the first time in years, hope returned. But she was also afraid. If this human failed, it would crush her daughter's spirit forever. Still, she could not stop herself. That night she entered her daughter's room, sat beside her bed, and held her hand. "My child," she whispered, "would you like to try one last hope?" The daughter, half asleep, opened her eyes. She had learned not to expect too much, but she nodded softly. The next morning, the mother made her decision. She left her golden palace in secret, taking only her daughter, a few guards, and her fastest ship. She did not tell the council. She did not tell her friends. She knew if the other elites heard of this, they would laugh. They would say she had lost her mind, but she did not care. For in her heart, one small voice whispered, "What if the impossible is possible?" The journey was long. They crossed empty space, silent asteroids, and glowing nebulae. At last, they reached a small planet. It was not rich, not beautiful. Its houses were simple, its markets poor. Yet here in the middle of a dusty street stood the human she had heard about. He did not wear gold. He did not ride in a flying craft. He looked simple, almost ordinary. But when his eyes met hers, the mother felt something strange, like he could see her soul, her pain, and her fear. The human spoke softly. "You came for your daughter." The mother froze. He had not asked who she was, or why she came. He already knew. Her guards tightened their weapons, ready to strike if this was a trick. But the mother raised her hand. She stepped forward, her voice sharp but trembling. "Yes," she said. "If you can heal her, name your price. Gold, jewels, ships, whatever you want. I will pay anything." The human smiled faintly and shook his head. "I do not want your gold." The mother's heart skipped. For the first time in her life, her wealth was useless. "Then what do you want?" she demanded. The human's answer was simple, yet more shocking than anything she had ever heard. "I want your trust." The mother stared in silence, unable to speak. Trust? What kind of price was that? And in that moment, for the first time, she felt a different kind of fear, because gold she could give, power she could trade. But trust, that was something she had never given to anyone. The human's price, the palace guards were restless. They did not like the way the human spoke. He was too calm, too confident for someone who owned nothing. To them, he looked weak, just another poor creature hiding on a dusty planet. But to the millionaire alien mother, his words cut deeper than any blade. Trust. That was the price he asked for. Not gold, not ships, not treasures, just trust. The mother's lips tightened. All her life she had learned to never trust anyone. Friends became rivals, partners became thieves. Even family once tried to take her fortune. Trust was dangerous. Trust was weakness. Yet now, for the sake of her daughter, she was being asked for the one thing she had never given. Her daughter sat quietly in her chair, watching the exchange. Though young, she could see the storm inside her mother's heart. She whispered softly, "Mother, maybe we should try." The words of the child struck harder than any council command. The mother turned to the human, her voice low but sharp. "What does it mean, your trust? What do you want me to do?" The human's eyes did not blink. "You will follow my instructions without question. You will not interfere. You will not stop me even if what I do looks foolish or painful or impossible. You will not use your power to control me. You will only believe." The mother almost laughed. Believe? She had built empires by numbers, logic, and force. Belief was for children, for dreamers. Yet here stood a human asking her to put away her gold and weapons and surrender to something invisible. Her guards leaned close. "My lady," one whispered, "say the word and we will remove him." But the mother stayed silent. Her eyes never left the human. She wanted to test him. "If I refuse?" she asked. "Then leave," the human replied calmly. "Your gold will find many buyers, but your daughter will never walk." The mother's blood boiled. No one had ever spoken to her like this. In her world, power ruled. People bowed, they begged. But this human, with no riches, dared to stand tall in front of her, and strangely, she did not hate it. She feared it. For perhaps, just perhaps, this man truly knew something the galaxy did not. She lowered her eyes to her daughter. The girl's small hands were clenched on the chair, trembling with hope and fear. She whispered, "Please, Mother, give him what he wants." The room fell silent. Even the guards did not move. Finally, the mother spoke. "Very well. You have my trust, but if you harm her..." The human raised a hand gently. "If I harm her, you may take my life." The mother's eyes narrowed. He had placed his life in her hands so easily. That too was strange. The first test began that very night. The human ordered the daughter to be carried into a small empty hut with no machines, no shining lights, no advanced alien tools. The millionaire mother felt insulted. She had built hospitals, filled with technology, and here was a man using nothing but wood and cloth. The human asked everyone to leave. Everyone, even the mother. Her anger rose again. "I gave you my trust, but I will not abandon her." The human looked at her calmly. "Trust means letting go. If you cannot, then you have not given it." The mother's chest tightened. Her guards waited for her order, but she surprised herself. For the first time, she stepped back. For the first time, she allowed someone else to take control. The door closed. Hours passed. The mother waited outside, pacing, her heart beating faster with every moment. She imagined tricks, cruelty, lies. She imagined her daughter crying inside, alone. But then, a sound broke her fear. Laughter. Her daughter's laughter. The mother froze. That sound had been rare in the palace, almost forgotten. But now it came, bright and alive, from inside the hut. When the door finally opened, the girl's face was glowing. She was still in her chair, but her eyes shone with something new. Hope. The mother rushed forward. "What happened?" she demanded. Her daughter looked up at her with wide eyes. "Mother, I felt something. A spark. My toes. They moved." The mother gasped. Her hands shook as she fell to her knees beside the chair. She touched her daughter's feet with trembling fingers. For the first time they were warm. Not cold, not lifeless. Warm. The human stood quietly behind them, saying nothing. Tears filled the mother's eyes. But still, her mind fought back. Perhaps it was chance, perhaps imagination. She needed proof. She turned to the human. "How long? How many days before she can walk?" The human shook his head. "Do not count days. Do not count steps. Believe. That is the only way forward." The mother's fists clenched. Again, he gave no clear answer. Again, he asked for faith instead of facts. Yet she could not deny what she had seen. The impossible had begun. That night, the mother did not sleep. She sat awake, staring at the stars beyond her ship. For the first time in years, she felt afraid. Not of losing her wealth, not of enemies, but of believing in hope again. Because hope was dangerous. Hope could break her heart. But when dawn came and she saw her daughter smiling in her chair, whispering, "I can feel more today," she knew she could not turn back. The price had been named. The choice had been made, and the journey into the impossible had truly begun. The first sign of change. The days on the small, dusty planet passed slowly, but inside the hut, something new was beginning. The human had no machines, no glowing screens, no sharp alien tools. He only had his hands, his voice, and strange methods no alien healer had ever used before. The millionaire alien mother watched from a distance, though her heart pulled her to interfere every moment. She wanted to demand answers, to shout at the human to explain his ways. But each time she opened her mouth, her daughter's eyes stopped her. Those eyes, filled with hope, whispered, "Wait. Trust." And so, for the first time in her life, the mother remained silent. The human began each day with what looked like simple games. He placed small stones in her daughter's hands and told her to throw them. He asked her to hum songs while he tapped her legs lightly, almost like a rhythm. He spoke in calm tones, telling stories of humans who had once healed wounds no medicine could. To the mother, it all looked foolish. "This is no science," she thought bitterly. "This is madness." But her daughter laughed, and every day, her laughter grew stronger. On the third night, as the stars glowed across the empty skies, the mother sat beside her daughter's bed. The girl looked at her with shining eyes. "Mother," she whispered. "I felt it again." The mother leaned forward quickly. "What did you feel?" "My toes," the girl said, almost breathless. "I felt them move. Just for a second." The mother froze. Her hand reached under the blanket, touched her daughter's foot. She waited. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, just barely, the smallest twitch touched her fingers. The mother gasped and pulled back, her golden bracelets clattering against the floor. Her heart raced so fast she could barely breathe. This was not chance. This was not imagination. Something was changing. The next morning, she confronted the human. "Tell me the truth. What are you doing to her?" The human simply looked at her with calm eyes. "I am waking what was always there. Her spirit is stronger than her body. I am teaching the body to listen." The mother's anger rose. "Do not speak in riddles. Give me answers." The human shook his head. "Answers will not help you. Only patience will." The mother's fists clenched, but her daughter's voice broke the tension. "Mother," she said softly, "let him try." And so the lessons continued. Each day the girl practiced strange movements. She pressed her feet against the floor, though they did not yet lift. She tried to stand with the human support, though she fell back each time. The mother's heart cracked with every fall, but the girl only smiled. "I am closer," she would whisper. "I can feel it." At night, the mother lay awake, torn between fear and wonder. She had built her life on control, on knowing the outcome before the risk. But now she was trapped in a storm of the unknown. Still, she could not deny the spark she saw in her daughter's eyes. A spark she had never seen before. But the galaxy is never silent when miracles begin. Rumors spread quickly. Traders whispered of the rich mother who had left her palace in secret. Servants who had followed her began to talk in markets. And soon, the story reached the ears of the other elites, the council of powerful alien families. To them, the idea was dangerous. If humans could heal what the galaxy could not, what else might they do? What place would remain for alien doctors for the old powers? Whispers turned to suspicion. Suspicion turned to fear. And fear always turned to threat. One night, as the mother left the hut, she found a message carved into the sand outside. The letters glowed faintly in the dark. "Stop this, or lose everything." Her blood ran cold. She crushed the message with her foot, but the warning echoed in her mind. The council was watching. Enemies were moving. Yet when she looked back at her daughter, smiling with hope as she tried again to move her legs, the mother knew she could not stop. Even if the galaxy turned against her, she would not let her child's miracle be stolen. But the danger came sooner than she expected. On the 7th day, while the girl was practicing, her face suddenly twisted in pain. She cried out and collapsed to the floor, her body trembling. The mother rushed forward, her heart shattering. "What have you done to her?" she screamed at the human. The human knelt calmly, placing his hand on the girl's back. "This is part of the path. The body resists before it learns." The mother's tears fell as she held her daughter. "If she dies, she will not die," the human interrupted firmly. "She will rise." But the mother's heart was drowning in fear. She looked down at her child, shaking, her lips whispering in pain. The girl's hand clutched her mother's tightly, and through the tears she whispered only one word. "Believe." The mother froze. The same word. The same impossible word the human had spoken. Her child, her broken daughter, was telling her to believe. The mother's breath caught in her throat. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in her life, she whispered back the word she had always hated, "I believe." And as if those words carried power, the trembling slowed. The girl's body relaxed. Her breathing steadied. Slowly, her small hand squeezed her mother's fingers with strength she had never shown before. The mother looked up at the human, her eyes wide with shock. The human only gave a faint smile. "This is only the beginning." And in that moment, the mother realized something terrifying. The impossible was no longer a dream. It was real, and the galaxy would never forgive it. The secret spreads. The mother thought she could keep it hidden. She thought the dusty little planet, far from the shining cities, would protect the truth. But hope is like fire. It always finds a way to escape the cracks. The whispers began small. A servant claimed he saw the millionaire alien mother leave her palace in secret. A trader swore he saw her ship land on a poor world. A guard told another guard that the daughter, once forever paralyzed, was now laughing every day. By the time the sun set on the 10th day, the story had already spread across the stars. The richest alien mother has found a human who heals the impossible. At first people laughed. Humans were considered weak, unimportant. But when more whispers came, laughter turned into curiosity. Curiosity turned into fear, and fear reached the council. The alien council was a circle of powerful families who controlled medicine, wealth, and law across many worlds. They had always mocked humans, calling them fragile and primitive. But if even one human could do what their machines could not, then everything they controlled, their power, their riches, their pride, was in danger. The council gathered in their dark chamber, under a ceiling painted with stars. Voices clashed. "This rumor must be false," one said. "Yet if it is true, humans will rise above us," another warned. "We cannot allow it," growled a third. The leader of the council raised his hand, and silence fell. His eyes glowed with cold fire. "If the mother is desperate enough to seek a human, then she has already broken her dignity. We must remind her of her place. If she continues, she will lose everything." And so, a message was sent. Not through official words, not through open law, but through shadow and threat. Back on the dusty planet, the mother found the warning carved in the sand again. This time it was clearer. "Stop, or your empire will burn." Her heart raged. They wanted to take hope away from her daughter. They wanted to crush the small miracle before it could bloom. For the first time, she felt more fear for her daughter's future than for her own empire. Inside the hut, the human continued his work, as if nothing outside mattered. He guided the daughter through exercises that seemed strange but powerful. He made her hold herself up by ropes, forcing her body to remember balance. He whispered words of courage when her legs trembled. The girl's progress was slow but steady. Each day she could feel more. Each night she whispered to her mother with shining eyes, "I am closer." But the mother's mind was restless. She kept pacing, her thoughts heavy with worry. One evening, unable to hold it anymore, she spoke sharply to the human. "Do you know what you are doing? The council is watching us. They will destroy me. They will destroy you. And maybe even her." The human did not raise his voice. If the council fears a little girl's first step, then their power is already broken. The mother clenched her fists. "You do not understand. They will not stop at threats. They will take my fortune, my ships, even my life." The human's eyes stayed calm. "And what of her life? Will you trade her hope for your empire?" The word struck her heart like a blade. She had spent years protecting her riches, but what use? Were riches if her daughter remained broken? Still, the fear was real. She did not answer. That night, while the mother argued with her own thoughts, something happened inside the hut. The girl, lying awake, felt a strange pull in her legs. It was weak, but real. She pushed herself up, holding to the edge of her chair, and for one brief second, just one, she stood. Her knees buckled and she fell back quickly, but her heart raced with joy. She had done it. She had touched the ground on her own. In her excitement, she laughed aloud. Her voice carried outside the hut across the quiet village. A few strangers passing by heard it. They peeked in and saw her, glowing with hope. And that was all it took. By the next morning, the village was buzzing with talk. The girl walks. The human has power. The miracle is real. The mother's face turned pale when she heard the gossip. The secret was no longer safe. The entire galaxy would soon know. That evening, when she stepped outside, she found not one message in the sand, but 3. Each one sharper than the last. "Stop now. Do not test us. Your empire will fall." Her hands shook as she erased the words, but her heart burned with fury. She returned to the hut, watching her daughter smile with pride after her tiny success. She could not tell the child of the danger. She could not destroy that light in her eyes. But in her own heart she knew the truth. The council would not wait much longer. The miracle was no longer a secret. And when hope spreads too far, power always tries to crush it. The mother clenched her jaw, her eyes shining with both fear and fire. She would not give up. She would not let them take this away. But she also knew the war had already begun. Walking into danger. The warnings in the sand haunted the mother's mind. Every day she expected the council's shadow to fall upon her, Yet when she looked at her daughter, smiling and trying again and again to move her legs, she knew there was no turning back. Hope was already alive. And hope, once born, could not be killed so easily. The human continued his strange lessons. He tied ropes from the ceiling of the hut and made the girl hang by them, forcing her to push her weight onto her legs. He tapped her knees gently, speaking words of strength. Do not fear the fall, fear never trying. The girl gritted her teeth. Sweat rolled down her face. Her legs trembled violently like thin branches in a storm. The mother watched, torn between pride and terror. Every time her daughter stumbled, her heart cracked. Every time she lifted herself again, her chest burned with fire. One evening, when the twin moons rose over the poor village, the human said, "Tomorrow she will try her first step." The mother's eyes widened. "Already? She is not ready." The human shook his head. "She is ready. You are not." The mother's voice shook with anger. "If she falls, if she hurts." "She will fall," the human said calmly, "and then she will rise." The words sank into the mother's bones. She hated them, yet she also knew they carried truth. The next day, the village gathered outside the hut. Rumors had spread like wildfire. Farmers, traders, even beggars stood at the edge of the dusty street, whispering about the paralyzed girl who might walk. The mother wanted to send them all away, but the human allowed it. "Let them witness," he said. Inside the hut, silence pressed heavy. The mother sat near the wall, her hands clutching the golden plate she always ate from, a plate carved with her family's crest, a symbol of her power. She held it as if it could protect her from what was about to happen. The human stood before the girl. His voice was firm, steady. "Today, you take one step. Not for them, not even for her." He nodded toward the mother. "But for yourself." The girl nodded nervously. Her small hands clutched the rope for balance, her feet pressed against the ground. "Lift," the human whispered. Her body shook, her knees screamed, but slowly, so slowly, her right foot rose. Gasps filled the room as she moved it forward, trembling, and placed it on the ground again. One step. The mother's breath stopped. Then the girl tried again. Her left foot dragged forward. She stumbled, nearly falling, but the human caught her just in time. 2 steps. The crowd outside gasped louder. The air itself felt electric. The mother's golden plate slipped from her hands and crashed to the floor, shattering into pieces. She did not even notice. Her eyes were fixed on her daughter. For the first time in her life, the girl stood on her own, without the chair, without help. Shaking, sweating, but standing. Tears streamed down the mother's face. She had seen ships rise into the skies, she had seen armies kneel before her, but nothing had ever stolen her breath like this moment. "My child," she whispered, her voice breaking, "you are walking." The girl turned her head, her face glowing brighter than the sun's outside. "I told you, Mother. I can do it." The human stepped back, allowing the moment to belong to them. His face was calm, but in his eyes was quiet pride. Outside, the crowd erupted. Shouts of awe and wonder filled the air. "It is true," they cried. "The human has done it." But among the cheers, darker whispers moved. Hidden eyes watched. Messengers ran to carry the news back to the council. In the shadows beyond the village, cloaked figures spoke in low voices. "She walks. The miracle is real." Then the council will not wait any longer. This human must be stopped. Back inside, the mother hugged her daughter tightly, still crying, still trembling. But deep in her heart, she felt the cold touch of fear. She knew the council would never forgive this. She knew her empire was already under threat. But when she looked into her daughter's shining eyes, she also knew one more thing. She would rather lose everything than let this miracle be stolen. That night, as the girl slept peacefully for the first time in years, the mother stood outside the hut staring at the stars. Her hands clenched into fists. She whispered into the silent night, "Let them come. I will not stop. Not now." But even as she spoke, a chill swept the air. In the distance beyond the horizon, ships were already moving. The council's shadow was falling fast. The girl had taken her first step, and with it, she had stepped into danger. The council's threat, the miracle, could no longer be hidden. The girl's first steps had shaken the quiet village, and within days the story spread across space like fire through dry grass. On wealthy planets, in council halls, even in the markets of poor moons, people whispered the same words. The paralyzed daughter of the richest mother walks, thanks to a human. To many it was a story of hope. Parents of sick children prayed it was true. Old men dreamed of standing strong again. But to the council, it was poison. The council sat in their towering chamber, shadows dancing across the floor. 13. Alien lords, each one a master of power and wealth, stared at the glowing reports before them. "It is confirmed," said the eldest. "The girl moves on her own legs. The human has achieved the impossible." "Impossible?" Another hissed. "If he can do this, what place do our healers hold? What value do our machines have? We will be mocked. Our power will collapse." A third slammed his fist on the table. "The galaxy must never believe in humans. If hope spreads, control is lost." The eldest leaned forward, his eyes narrow and sharp. "Then we do what must be done. The mother must be reminded of her place. If she continues, we will strip her of her empire, and the human must disappear." The decision was made. Back on the dusty planet, the mother felt the storm before it came. Messages filled her private channel. Allies turned cold. Ships once loyal to her refused her orders. Traders pulled away their contracts. Her empire was already shaking. The council had moved against her, cutting her power piece by piece. In the small hut, the human worked calmly with her daughter, as if none of it mattered. He tied ropes for a balance, lifted her gently, and whispered words of strength. The mother watched with burning frustration. How could he remain so calm when her entire empire was falling apart? Finally, she snapped, "Do you not understand? They are destroying me. My ships, my fortune, my name. It is all slipping away. And you stand here as if nothing matters." The human turned his eyes to her. His voice was calm, almost too calm. "Would you trade her steps for your empire?" The mother froze. The question cut deeper than any threat. Her gaze fell to her daughter, who was taking shaky steps across the hut, each one brighter than gold. For the first time, the mother whispered the truth. "Yes, I would trade it all." The human nodded. "Then you already know the path. The council can take your wealth, but they cannot take what she has gained. Unless you let them." The mother's eyes filled with fire. She hated him for being right. She hated herself for ever doubting. But before she could answer, the storm arrived. That evening, a ship descended over the poor village. It was not a simple trader's craft. It was black and silent, carrying the crest of the council. The villagers fled, hiding in their homes. The air grew heavy with fear. The mother stood tall outside the hut, her guards at her side, weapons drawn. She had faced rivals before. She had crushed enemies before, but never had she felt so unprepared. From the ship, 3 council envoys stepped down, tall, cold, their eyes sharp as blades. One spoke, his voice echoing like thunder. "You have defied the council. You have brought shame to our order. End this foolishness now, or everything you own will be erased." The mother clenched her fists. "You speak of foolishness, yet you fear a little girl's step. You fear a human's hands. That is your weakness." The envoy's face twisted in anger. "You dare?" The mother's voice rose. "I dare, because I have something you will never have. Hope." The daughter's voice then broke the silence. Weak but steady, she called from inside the hut. "Mother, let me come." The mother turned, her heart racing. The girl stood at the doorway, holding the frame for balance. Her legs trembled, but she was standing. Alone. The envoys froze. Their eyes widened in disbelief. The villagers, peeking from their doors, gasped. They saw with their own eyes the miracle that could not be denied. Step by step, the girl walked forward. Not perfectly, not without shaking, but with courage. The envoy spat in fury. This ends now. The human is forbidden. He will be taken. Guards from the black ship moved toward the hut. The mother's scream split the air. You will not touch him. You will not take this away from her. Her. Guards raised their weapons, ready for battle. The villagers, emboldened by what they saw, stepped forward too. Farmers, traders, poor laborers, all stood together. The envoys hesitated. The crowd was growing, the truth spreading too fast, but the council's will was iron. The envoy pointed at the human. Then we will take him by force. The human did not resist. He simply looked at the mother with calm eyes. Remember what I told you, believe. The mother's heart shattered as he was seized. Her daughter screamed, trying to run forward, but her legs gave way. The mother caught her in her arms, holding her close as the black ship lifted into the night, carrying the human away. The villagers whispered in fear. The mother's empire was breaking. The human was gone. The council had struck. But as the ship disappeared into the stars, the daughter clutched her mother's hand and whispered with fierce determination, Do not give up. I will walk again. I will not stop. The mother's tears fell onto her child's face. She held her tighter than ever, and in her heart, she made a vow. If the council thinks this is the end, they are wrong. This is only the beginning, the last miracle. The black ship vanished into the stars, taking the human with it. Silence fell over the dusty village. The mother stood frozen, her arms around her trembling daughter. The council had struck, just as she feared. But something had changed. The villagers had seen the miracle with their own eyes. They had seen the girl walk. No lies, no tricks. No council threats could erase what they witnessed. And once hope is seen, it cannot be unseen. Still, the mother's heart was heavy. The human was gone. Her empire was falling, and danger surrounded them. She feared the council would return, stronger and crueler than before. That night, as the stars burned above, the daughter spoke softly, her voice filled with quiet strength. Mother, we cannot wait for him. He gave me the first steps. Now I must take the rest. The mother's eyes filled with tears. But you are still weak. Without him, the girl shook her head. He gave me more than healing. He gave me belief, and now I must use it. The words struck the mother deep. She remembered the human's calm eyes, his strange demand. I want your trust. Perhaps this was what he meant all along. Days turned into weeks. The human remained imprisoned somewhere, in the council's hidden chambers. The mother searched for him through her spies, but every trail ended in silence. Meanwhile, the daughter refused to stop. Every morning she rose, her legs shaking but determined. She practiced balance with ropes. She crawled when she could not stand. She pushed herself again and again, falling, crying, then rising once more. The mother stayed by her side, no longer the queen of riches, but a simple parent, holding her child each time she fell. Slowly the girl's steps grew stronger. Her body, once lifeless, now carried her weight. One evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in red fire, the girl called to her mother, "Watch me." She let go of the rope, stood tall, and walked across the hut. Alone, without support. The mother gasped, her golden bracelets clattering as her hands flew to her face. Tears poured down her cheeks. Her daughter was walking. Not one step, not two, but many. The miracle was complete. The news spread faster than light. Witnesses told the story in every market and port. Songs were sung of the girl who walked. Even in the council's chambers, whispers could no longer be silenced. The council grew desperate. The leader slammed his fist on the table. This ends now. If the galaxy sees her walk, our power is finished. They ordered ships to prepare. They would crush the mother, the daughter, and any village that stood with them. But destiny had already chosen a different path. On the day the council's fleet arrived, the villagers gathered in the dusty streets. They were poor, with no weapons to match the council's armies. But they had something stronger: faith in the miracle they had witnessed. At the center stood the mother and her daughter. The girl, though still trembling, stood tall on her own two legs. The council envoys stepped forward once again, their voices like cold knives. Surrender the girl, surrender the lie, or be destroyed, the villagers shouted back in anger. It is no lie, we saw her walk. We saw the human's gift. The daughter raised her hand for silence. Her voice, though small, carried across the square. You call it a lie because you fear the truth, but I am the truth. I was broken. I was forgotten. And now, I walk. Gasps filled the air as she took step after step, slowly but boldly, until she stood in front of the envoys themselves. The council soldiers faltered. Their eyes widened. No machine, no trick, no illusion. Only the raw, undeniable truth of a child's first real steps. The envoys trembled. Their power was slipping. The crowd was growing louder, and then from the sky another ship descended, black like the council's, but smaller. The door opened, and a figure stepped out. The human. The mother's heart nearly stopped. How had he escaped? The human walked calmly through the crowd, his eyes steady. He faced the envoys without fear. You tried to bury hope, he said softly. But hope always rises. The villagers cheered. The mother fell to her knees in relief. The daughter ran forward, ran into the human's arms. The human smiled faintly. You did it, he whispered to her. The last step was always yours. The council envoys, seeing the tide turn, retreated in fury. They knew the truth could not be silenced now. Their ships fled, their threats hollow in the face of the miracle. When the dust settled, the mother looked at the human with tears in her eyes. Why did you do this? Why risk your life for us? The human's answer was simple. Because humans are not rich. We are not powerful, but we believe. And belief can heal what even gold cannot. The mother dropped to her knees, bowing for the first time in her life. Not to a king, not to a council, but to a human who had given her what no empire could. Her daughter stood beside her, walking proudly, her voice bright. Mother, he was right. The miracle was never in his hands. It was always in mine. The crowd roared with joy. The council's shadow faded. And from that day on, the story of the girl who walked spread across the stars, a legend of hope, belief, and the strange, unstoppable power of humanity.